Welcome to Spin Sisters. I'm Mary LaHammer.
And I am Tara Erickson.
And we have the inside scoop from two people behind the sold-out Resist and Unsubscribe event in Minneapolis. Tara?
We do. I cannot believe I get to do this, but Kara Swisher is with us today. She is the host of On with Kara Swisher and co-host of the Pivot podcast. She's editor-at-large at New York Magazine and a CNN contributor. She also co-founded the technology website Recode and Tech Conference Code, which is the country's premier conference on tech and media, considered the top reporter in the tech game. Ms. Swisher has been reporting on the industry since the early 90s and once was called Silicon Valley's most feared but revered journalist. She's also the author of a New York Times bestselling author burn book, A Tech Love Story, and has an upcoming CNN original titled Kara Swisher Wants to Live Forever, which I personally think would be phenomenal for all of us.
I don't really want to live forever. Thank you for that lovely bio. It felt like my funeral there.
So thank you for
By the way, I don't
here.
do the conference anymore. I did 20 years and then we finished on a huge high note. We started with Steve Jobs. We ended with Lorraine Powell Jobs, Johnny Ives, and Tim Cook. So that's done.
That is done. Well, Mary, I know you're going to introduce Tane, our other guest, so please.
I am my longtime friend and colleague. Tane Danger is the co-founder of Danger Boat Productions, a contributor to Twin Cities PBS Almanac, and part of the Emmy-nominated documentary that I helped executive produce, Jesse Ventura Shocks the World. And he's on CityCast Twin Cities, a longtime host and interviewer with his show, The Theater of Public Policy. And he is helping produce the event we're going to talk about with Kara and Scott on the ground here in Minnesota. But we want to start here. Tara Erickson, you get to tell the story of how you heard about Kara and Tane partnering. What's the backstory?
Yes. So I was out walking my dogs and listening to Pivot like I do every Tuesday and Friday, and was really excited when all of a sudden the chatter between Kara and Scott was, we should go to Minnesota. We should do it there.
Yeah.
And then brought up Tane's name and I screamed and called Mary right away.
I said, I just know who should do it. I mean, it started on a lark. It actually did start on a lark where we just were talking about what to do next. I mean, Scott had gotten some traction on Resist and Unsubscribe, which is entirely Scott's thing. I mean, we started talking about it on the show and we talk about that issue of taking action. And he just came up. Scott is an entrepreneur. He comes up with all manner of things. And he and I had been on calls with like Hollywood celebrities and everything else about how to like boycott. And we couldn't stay on the call. We're like, oh, we can't talk to all these people, like kind of stuff. And so we didn't really do anything. And then he decided to do it and it got some traction. And then things tend to level off when you do these things. And we're like, we have to keep it going. And one of the things was, he goes, we should do a live event. And then I said, we should do a live because we had just done the very successful Pivot tour. Yeah. And I said, we know how to do that. We could do that. That would be cool. And then he immediately said Minneapolis. That was all Scott all the way.
So thankful. And is it?
And of course, I mentioned then Tane Danger.
Yes,
I was like,
and
then Tane Danger. And Scott was like, I don't believe that. That's a porn star name. And I said, no, I don't know if that is the case. But in any case, I haven't checked.
It's good. My parents don't listen to podcasts, so they will not hear any of this.
Good.
He did name you that. Tane, we should let you speak. Your
Speak
birth
Tane.
name is Tane Danger.
Yeah, no, it really is. I mean, I know that this has been a question whether this is really my name or not. I come from a long line of Dangers. My father's a minister. He is the Reverend Danger. Like I had a
Terry,
grandma
right?
Danger.
His name is Terry.
Yeah, exactly. Good
What was
memory,
the Danger before that?
The Danger was his father was Michael
Okay.
Danger, and then it goes all the way back to Wilhelm. I believe, and Wilhelmina. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good
Where did
German
Tane
name.
come from? Where did Tane?
So there's two parts to the Tane thing. One, Tane is the Hawaiian god of the sea. I am not Hawaiian for people watching.
Yeah.
But my parents, they read the Book of Hawaii, the mythology, and they fell in love with that name. So that part's very cool. The less sort of like glamorous part of the origin of that name is my parents were married for a very long time before I was born, for more than 10 years. And in that time, they loved the name and they had a dog that they named Tane. And so they had a dog named Tane for many years. The dog passed away. And about 6 months later, they had a son. And they were like, well, the name worked for the dog. So technically, I'm Tane the second, and I'm not joking when I say there really is a photo of that dog on the mantelpiece at home still. I live in that dog's
So
shadow
that
for
is
the
the
rest of my life.
original Tane Dane. Oh, wow.
Exactly.
Lucky your parents didn't name your dog Rover or something.
Yeah, exactly.
But Tane, your phone was blowing up, and I think
Sure.
I was one of the people blowing up your phone. And you said, "Oh yeah, I'm talking to Kara." Like it got real, didn't it?
Yeah.
You two?
Oh, no, we do shit. That's what we do. Scott and I, we
Absolutely.
say things and then we manifest. We're very much like that. Like everything
I mean,
we do.
it was within hours, wasn't it, Kara, where this turned from almost a joke about who's this porn star in Minneapolis that you're going to partner with at a theater?
We have committed. We committed to this, and we love live events, and we had missed Minneapolis on our pivot tour. We may be included in the one we're doing in the fall again. But it was at the top of the list. We were coming to Minneapolis.
And it's already sold out. People should know. They can't get tickets, but they can still watch or listen.
Yes. Scott is doing a live cast of it. So you can stream whatever, streaming it. And
we'll be putting that graphic up so people will know for.
Yeah, so people can do that. And, we'll put it on the podcast. It'll be the podcast, the Pivot podcast. So that's a huge podcast. And so it'll go out everywhere. And then hopefully we'll have something where we're going to, Scott's paying for it. And then there's going to be ticket sales is where we're going to give the money to the.
Right. To the Immigrant Law Center of Minnesota.
Yes.
So basically all the ticket sales will be able to go towards that really valuable cause.
Yeah, and we are going to ask people if they, we'll have a click if they want to give themselves, even if they're not there. So if they want to give a donation or whatever. But, it was all born out of do something, like whatever it happens to be. And in Minneapolis, you're doing protests, you're doing all manner of resistance. And so it seemed like the perfect place because you guys really have shown how to do resistance in a really effective way.
Yeah,
and you have been teasing out some surprise guests, perhaps. I know you're probably not going to reveal it. I know, but I'm just wondering maybe if there's somebody with the last name Walls or Klobuchar.
I know them.
I wonder if you've talked to them because, as a political reporter, I watched the two of them in D.C. this week, and one of them had some particularly sharp exchanges with the now former Christine home. Can you talk about, are you surprised that she's gone now?
No, we've said it on the podcast that she's got to go. I mean, the only thing that's preventing any of these incompetents from being fired, whether it's Kash Patel, Party Boy, or Pam Bondi, mendacious fuck. Oh, sorry. I don't know if I can say that.
That's okay.
But,
podcast.
The only reason is he just isn't firing anyone for competence. Pete Hegseth, I mean, what a moron he is.
But Noam is the first departure in the second term of Trump.
She murdered people. So that could be it. I mean, besides, she's just so incompetent the way this has been rolled out. And of course, there's not just the incompetence of her various actions, especially in Minnesota, which everyone saw the incompetence on display, and ill will. It's not just it's a whole mess of things. But incompetence plays a big role here. She's not competent to the task, and I don't throw that around. She just isn't. She just isn't. Shouldn't be doing this job. And then the fraud that might be happening around the contracts. These no bid contracts that she was doing turns out to be her spokesperson's husband, who never had a court, that was brought forward in these two hearings. And then, of course, her relationship with Corey Lewandowski. She alleged, the allegations are she's sleeping with a subordinate on taxpayer-funded planes. Like, it's all like any one of these things is.
And so there's all of those things. And as Mary said, she was on Capitol Hill this week, and Amy Klobuchar was among a number of people who really grilled her. How much do you think something like that matters? The show of her sort of being there.
That was, to me, I was oddly enough with one of the senators who grilled her, not Klobuchar. It was a Republican senator. We had an off-the-record thing. I can't say who it is, but he gave her a talking to, let's just say. They all did. See, when I saw the Republicans, especially, several Republicans went after her. And even John Kennedy, who he does his best to be a lapdog to the Trump administration, was going after her. They probably felt safe to do so, right? And
the incompetence is so
right. I mean, they felt safe to say it. They wouldn't have done that if they felt that she had the leverage whatsoever. And so to ask those questions about it's not a personal situation, it's at work, right? It's a work relationship that is inappropriate. And and then she couldn't answer because if she lies to Congress, like she said, this is trash. That's not an answer. This is garbage. That's not an answer. And trying to pull the feminist card on it, the whole thing. You would, if it was a man, he'd be out in 5 seconds. Scott makes that very salient point. But, I think once the Republicans started going after her pretty prominently, that had the yes from the White House to do so, or at least they felt they weren't going to get repercussions. And then the House stuff was really eviscerating, whether it was Jasmine Crockett. There were several representatives that really went after her. And I knew that was over then because it was open seasons on her.
One thing that I think about is that it really seemed that the justification for DHS and ICE coming into our community for months and really
there.
terrorizing, absolutely terrorizing Minnesotans. I mean, we just saw a couple of nights ago, they're delivering a ton more Wagoneers and Escalades to the Whipple building, right? So, I mean, all of that's still happening. But there's a lot of justification that it was around fraud. And
it's ridiculous.
yes, there has been fraud in our human services programs.
Hey, check out Louisiana anytime.
I was just going to say, like, I worked in Medicaid for most of my career in public policy.
Check out Arkansas. Check out Kansas.
Texas,
check out California.
Florida. Absolutely. Yeah. And they're being pardoned, right? So, I mean, they might get convicted in a court of law and then they're being pardoned. When I think about the fraud that we heard about in that committee hearing the other day about this company being incorporated 8 days before.
Yeah.
8 days before, no address, no website. And they got $143 million.
Yeah, someone should call J.D. Vance on this one, the head of the fraud unit of
absolutely.
Like it's just it's one thing. It's one thing to say fraud is important, or it's one thing to say we want to cut government spending, like with Doge. But then it's selectively applied, right? And it's so obviously selectively applied, and certain people get things and certain people don't. And Scott always says, I'm trying to channel him. He's flying actually right now from London to do this event on Sunday. When you think about it, he says something that the law, we're all bound by the law but not protected by it, and they're protected by the law but not bound by it.
Absolutely.
And that's what it is. It's like, why them? Why there? What does this have to do with the border? We've a lot of border, and especially where they have issues like this. Why aren't they in those states doing things like that? And
absolutely.
Of course, saying they're going after criminals, which they're not. They're going, I mean, look at all the statistics. And I think Noam was also brought those. Of the 500 people, like 2 were actual criminals. Some were American citizens. I don't think there should be a distinction, honestly, because if you if someone didn't do anything, why are you going after them? There's other ways to deal with that issue. So I just, she's just a clown. I'd like to say it's only incompetence, but it's obviously a dark soul of a person that would do things like this and then attack someone who was just killed and in a way that it's going to go on for a while, these cases against Kristi Noem. And she better lawyer up. That's what I would say about her. But she has some new job, the shield of the 7 sisters. I don't know. She has some
new job. Yes. While
she doesn't have a budget, I bet she doesn't have a budget.
It was the reassigned, which is actually what Trump often does, right?
Yeah.
Is the reassign somebody.
Yeah. He can't fire them. I mean, he was so good at firing on that show. He can't fire anybody. And that's a famous thing about Trump is he was so famous for saying you're fired, but he never fires anybody. He keeps them on because it would reflect on him. And ultimately, this is about him, isn't it? It's not, I mean, he picked Kristi Noem. I have a really irritating problem I was with another Republican senator and he was like, well, it's not Trump, it's his people. I'm like, he picked his people. Like he lets his people be incompetent. Like he's like, but he's not well served by his advisors. I'm like,
he picked him.
He picked him and he's an adult man. And ultimately, the buck does stop at the desk of Donald Trump.
I mean, it's really terrifying to me as a citizen, worked in politics here in Minnesota for almost 30 years. And to know that Minnesota-owned Pete Hegseth is in charge of...
Oh, is he? I didn't even know.
Oh, he is.
Minnesota.
He had a proportionate impact on national politics.
Yeah.
He grew up in Minnesota? I didn't even...
He grew up in Forest Lake, Minnesota. It's about a half hour north of the Twin Cities.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, sorry. Yeah. Not everything from Minnesota is nice, apparently.
Well, I was going to say, that gives away, he is not the special guest for Sunday.
No, he's not. We are not having Pete.
Yeah.
He's busy badly doing whatever, not the war. He's trying to do not the war, which is a war, but is not a war, and that is ridiculous. I mean, one good thing is his focus is off, their focus is off terrorizing American citizens. They're just terrorizing another group of citizens across the world without any allied action or anything else. So.
Yeah, what about the economics of the war, too, by the way? You talked about Doge earlier, and Musk was brought in, right, to reduce costs.
Didn't find any, in fact, cost money, but go ahead.
the Trump administration is spending an awful lot of money
No, it's
on
all
ICE,
all
on
nonsense. It's
Iran.
all nonsense. The deficit will be worse. Where the deficit was run up was under Trump when Trump won. Like he's had more deficit increases than any other president at all, and in fact several combined, right? And it's just sort of this idea. They always come up with some plot or scheme as to why they're doing what they're doing. But this is going to cost us money. I mean, those aircraft that were shot down by accident by an ally.
270 million.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. Like that's a lot of money. And more to the point, it puts Americans in harm's way. They're going to obviously need more. They're trying to come up with let's get the Kurds again, which I think always.
But is this fiscally
tears.
conservative? Where are Republicans on fiscal conservatism?
No, none of it is. And also the meddling in companies, meddling with all are terrifying. And Target has behaved incredibly badly.
Yeah.
Like they've done things, they've done unnatural acts because they are worried about repercussions from the Trump administration, or investing in Intel, or wading into Anthropic, or any number of things where they're doing essentially industrial policy. That's had a Democrat done that, they would have been called communists, and they are often when they want to do it. And Democrats can be very meddlesome with companies. Absolutely, there's no question.
And
it's poor Amy Klobuchar with her giant book on antitrust, of course, is it has been sounding this alarm for a long time. So.
Yeah, it's remarkable. That wasn't more of a beach read for people, but it's good. I mean, it's like really important stuff, and it is a good kind of segue into. I mean, the reason that you're coming is this resist and unsubscribe movement, which is kind of trying to, I don't know, counterbalance a lot of that economic force that you're seeing, like the administration trying to meddle. And I feel like, and I'd love for you to tell the story of trying to empower consumers to say, you have power here in what
some
these
power.
Companies, some power. So
you have
how
some
do you
power.
describe it?
So, boycotts are not new, right? Like I remember when I was a kid, I'm gay, the Anita Bryant thing. I remember it being both inspirational and like, I've had enough of you, Anita Bryant. And I was a child then, but this was a thing about orange juice. Like she was very anti-gay. And so all the gay bars spilled out all the orange juice. We're not buying any more Florida orange juice because she was the spokesperson. Obviously the most famous was Martin Luther King's bus boycott. But that took a year. These things take time. And people do versions of boycotts that work and don't work. There was one against Disney by an anti-gay group that didn't really work because they had gay nights there or whatever. And every side can use them, by the way. And there's all kinds of websites and things that do this. Like we're going to fund this cause, fund that cause. That's been a real phenomena for a long time, but now it's quite online, those ideas of causes and everything. One of the things Scott and I were thinking about, and it's mostly Scott, was, you can protest, which is a laudable thing. Not everybody wants to protest. Not everybody feels they can protest. You can speak out at work. Some people feel they can't speak out at work, right? One of the things you absolutely can do is vote. Despite all the problems they try to put in your way, like they did in the Texas election, you can vote. That to me is your strongest tool in the box. But we were trying to think of a tool in the box. Like it's many tools. Like it's not one thing or the other. And we felt a lot of people felt like powerless. And we're like, you're actually not. You spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on tech stuff. They have captured most of the wealth in this country now. Like I think it's doubled, $25 trillion, the richest people, the top 0.1%, and everyone else is stagnated. So they're taking all your money. Why do you have to do it? And so what we wanted to do, the other thing we have a thing about is, if you don't want to do it that way, don't do it the way we say. We're not going to be lecturing at you. Like sometimes, honestly, the left can sometimes be lecturing. Like, you have to do this. You feel bad. We don't want you to feel bad. Here's a list. Here's what they did. Here's what we're doing. You pick and choose. But here's how you get rid of ChatGPT. And here's why we did. Here's how you get it, pick up Claude. And here's why we did. That's a good example. Like go from ChatGPT. Or Microsoft did this. You may think it's okay, and you think it's like, we're going to give people choice, or Disney did or didn't do this. And you can stack rank and judge it as much as you want. The other thing we wanted to, and we just give people instructions on how to do it, and we're not telling them how.
There's a lot of options.
There's a lot of options.
There's not one or two companies.
You can also change it, or, we may do Meta March. Like we may do let's just look at Meta products. And we're not saying products don't not use them at all. Just don't pay for them. Don't give them money. Right. Sure. And they do make money through advertising in other ways, but maybe don't do Amazon Prime. And here's what they've done. And here's what Amazon is. And maybe don't shop at Lowe's, and we want to give more alternatives. Like and no company is perfect. Every company has some hair on them in some fashion. Capitalism works like that. The other thing we want to do is say, you don't have to do it forever. If you like, your heated rivalry and HBO, really, the Ellisons owning HBO is going to be a problem for you. Watch it fast and then cut it off. Like if
You
you
are
don't like,
talking to Minnesotans. It is
Right.
a hockey show.
I get it.
Yeah.
And then turn
Think
it
about our
on. Turn it
audience.
on when it comes on again, and turn it off. Right. Those are the kind of, or go to a lot of people do steal it, and there's a lot of fan fiction around. Like, here's your options that you can do. And we don't want people to feel they have to do it forever. I happen to love Amazon Prime, and it's really hard to get rid of it. My kids didn't want to give up Apple Music. They have all their stuff on it. We had a long discussion. We haven't given it up yet, but I want to keep talking about it. And that's the other part, is getting people to talk about, like, where you're spending your money. What your money has power, and you have to think about where you're spending your money. And that's a really, really, really good thing. I think that's always a good thing. The discussions I've had with my sons, I was like, okay, this is what Apple did. If you're okay with it, we'll keep it. But I want you to know what they did. And they felt like, okay, he had to give him a statue. He was at the Melania premiere. That's not as bad as ChatGPT. Like, okay, let's get rid of that, like that kind of thing. And so we want to give people the maximum amount of freedom, but put tools in their hands to do what they want. And we'll keep going. We want to keep going, because one of the things, sustained boycotts really works.
Absolutely.
How powerful it is just to, when you talk about voting, I'm a journalist, and I am bound by, I work for a PBS station. I can't vote in, say, a primary election in our state.
You can't?
Because no, I can't. My journalistic rules don't allow me to vote in a
I think
primary.
that's ridiculous. You're a citizen,
because we have to pick a partisan ballot in our state. And
you do? Okay.
yes, and that is public knowledge. So I can't say
you can't do
a
independent.
Republican ballot or a Democratic ballot. So we do have limitations. I can't go to a protest. I can't be seen on one side or the other. So it was a really interesting conversation for our family, because it was a private way for my family to have this conversation of, okay,
pick and choose. You don't have to. You don't have to. If you didn't like that Kimmel thing,
privately discuss doing.
Yeah. And it's a range of stuff. Like, I didn't like that Kimmel thing. I don't need this. I can't get rid of Disney. My children would revolt. I have small children. So
but it was such a deep conversation that resulted in.
Right. Exactly.
What are our family values, and what matters to my kid? What matters to my spouse? It was, like you say, it created such a deep ethical conversation for all of us.
Which is great to have. And then people can make that decision, but know what be a smart customer. And the other thing is, communicate with these companies. Like, when I forgot I had One Medical, which is owned by Amazon. And I was like, you know what? I don't use it. Last time I used it, I had an ear infection in 2019, whatever it was. I've been paying for it all this year, $199 a year. And I was like, I don't need it. I can figure out. I mean, it's a very convenient service, right? But I'll figure it out.
And you
so
probably
I did,
right?
but I also didn't use it at $199 worth a year too. And so I said, I don't really use it, and they fucking drive me crazy. And so I'm going to do that. And then in the thing I wrote, which I tell everyone, say why you're leaving. And so I put resist and unsubscribe. I put the dot, and I go, by the way, Jeff Bezos sucks. And so, like when he did this, and I was very specific about why I quit. And so they keep all that in, like, they have people that do all manner. And so they start to notice. And the last thing is, people don't think that it has a real economic, because these are trillion-dollar companies, multi-trillion-dollar companies. It actually does more than you think. If, like, I was using the example of, I think it was Comcast or one of them. It wasn't one of the ones on our list, but they lost 30,000 subscribers.
It was
Comcast. And its stock went down $6 billion. It had nothing to do with this, but you can, just a couple thousand, like ChatGPT, its downloads are down 295. I think we're part of saying that to them. Like, okay, you want to do that? Here's what we can do. That's a lot of percent, especially in a highly competitive environment. And Claude's, which is Anthropic, are up by the same amount. Like, it's crazy. So consumers have, in this country at least, consumers have an ability to impact things. And lastly, it's not just, we're focusing on digital stuff because it's subscription. It's a lot of subscriptions. But you can do it. Where's your grocery store? Where's
Absolutely.
your, shop local is a very well-known thing, and I try to do that too. But what does so-and-so do? What is this? Like, Lowe's is a very good example. Like, hey, they let them use the parking lots to like gather so that they can harass
hardware
people who
stores for sure during the
bought a lot of
immigration action
stuff.
here that
Yeah, who
became
bought a
the
lot.
buzz. And people said, go to your local hardware stores then. If that chain
Right.
or this chain is
Right.
hitting ice
Exactly.
stage, then start going to your local hardware stores. And
Exactly.
yeah, I've talked to a
Exactly.
ton of local hardware stores said, yeah, business picked up because
I'll
of the
give you
chains were helping.
another example. You don't know the U-lanes. You see them on the bottom of boxes, a lot of cardboard boxes, ULINE. They are far right people, like far right. Why are we buying their boxes when you go to your local? I don't want a U-lane box. I want you to stop giving me the U-lane box. I won't buy a box from you, like that kind of thing. Pay attention to the little places because some of these people are very quietly hiding. But that's a good one. Pay attention to your cardboard boxes that you get and see where they're sourced and say, I don't like the cut of these jibs of these people. And they're quite far right and have been funding a lot of this stuff. And so be aware as a consumer, every aspect of the chain that goes on.
Well,
So,
sorry,
go
you go
ahead.
ahead. No, Tara, you go ahead.
So one thing that I was thinking about with this is, people in Minnesota have really loved Target for a long time, right?
Yep.
Hometown store.
I love Target. Yeah.
Dayton family. And then they kind of cop out on the DEI issues. And
That was
then
Connell, right? That was Connell, right?
and then
I know him.
two teenagers who worked in their stores were literally attacked and beat up in their stores and taken out who were citizens.
Mhm.
And there still was never a word about that.
I agree.
And so what was really interesting is yesterday there was an article in the Minnesota Star
I
Tribune.
saw it.
Yeah. And I started reading some of the comments and people were like, am I sad? Do I miss Target? Absolutely. But like until they actually do something and support the community.
Right.
And that was by far most of the comments. I was really shocked. And
the new CEO gave an interview that I thought was one of the most boneheaded talking points bullshit I've ever seen. And we're going to talk about it. I'm going to read from it. I'm like, what the fuck does this mean? What does this mean? Like they're trying to, I get the pressure companies are under. Most people don't want companies to virtue signal unless you're Patagonia, because that's what your customers want you to do, right?
Sure.
That's their genuine, what they do. This recent poll was they don't want companies to have an opinion on politics, but they also want them to be genuine. So, if you like Cracker Barrel and you're that person, you should go there, right? If they have the values you have. Same thing with Target. And Target has been, same thing with Apple. Like they were heavy human rights. We care about people. And then he's at the Melania premiere with a accused sexual harasser standing next to him in a tuxedo. You're like, are you kidding me? Was everything you said before a lie or is this a lie? Which one is it? Like, and so you can ask those important questions. And for Target, Target has always been like this diverse, we're for this. This has been an integral part of why people shop there. They like the vibe, right? They like the Target vibe. And it was always, I wouldn't say progressive, but it was like live and let live. Like, you know what I mean? Like they were always like that. And I came to Minneapolis a lot when I covered retail. There was a bunch of sales and, remember it was a lot of corporate shenanigans, not with Target, but in general in retail, there was a whole restructuring. But one of the things that they pushed that, that we're better than, I think it was Walmart, the rapacious Walmart is, compared to us, we're the folks you meet. Well, if you want to live that value, if you want to live that brand, you don't do this. You don't cut and run on gay people. You don't like cut and run on your own employees. And they should have articulated, we're worried about violence in our stores. They should have spoken with their customers. Okay, what do you think we should do? We are a little bit worried about our employees and retaliation. So you're doing everything in response to violent right-wing attacks versus how can we preserve our, I wouldn't say progressive, but, decent values.
Sure.
And also protect our people. But, they try to hide, behind it. We're scared of being shot, so we're going to act badly. Like what? Then we all live in constant fear of something.
Could they have thread a needle and stood up for their employees without taking a political stance because it was their employees?
Listen, let me just say, that's crap about the employees. Honestly, if they cared about their employees, they'd give them $25 minimum wage. Sorry. I think that is always like a signal to me. They are terrified of retaliation from the Trump administration. That's what it is. Like all these companies at the end of the day are worried about shareholders. And so that's no matter what they say to you, these corporations, shareholders are their number one constituency. And these CEOs, their money depends on the stock price and everything else. What happened with Target, their sales went down. And there was all kinds of reasons for that. Their stores got crappier. They didn't have enough selection. Retail is under. There's a 9, 10
But they've
reasons.
suffered a permanent loss since the
Yes,
DEI move.
they have, and
That's
they
provable.
should
And
have
I know
noticed that.
so many suburban women, friends,
Yes.
family who say,
I've
I
had
have
enough of it."
never gone back and I will not.
That's right. So what can they do to say? I was surprised the CEO did not say we've got away from our values and we need to get back to them. So we're going to have a discussion. Why not just be honest with your customers? People give people a break. I made a mistake, and I'm going to
Absolutely. Own up to
come
it.
back. We're going to come back. A company that does this rather well is Disney. Actually, they tend not to back. They've gotten attacked on a lot of, in this case, LGBTQ stuff, and they've pretty much stuck to their guns on that. They really have. They, for a minute, the CEO they then replaced sort of gave in Florida, and then the minute they bounced him out for a lot of reasons, they came right back to it. So you can do it, and then just say, the famous thing was, Republicans buy sneakers too. Remember that quote?
The
I think it
Michael
was-
Jordan.
Yeah, well, yes, but there's a difference. Yes, that is true. And so a lot of these companies are scared of that. At the same time, what happened? What was it? Was it Pepsi with the trans person? Which one was it? No, beer. It was Budweiser.
It was Budweiser.
Right.
Bud Light.
They hired
Bud Light.
this one woman who was very, not progressive. She just was edgy as a marketer. And then they didn't like that. It was so overblown compared to what they do. And what they do is they get captive by social media. They think social media is real life, and they think it's a real thing. And what happened in Target's case, the real thing were actual customers. The online stuff set them off to do something that actually affected their sales with real customers. So they were paying far too much attention to like a Megyn Kelly or a Sean Hannity, whoever was yelling at them at the time. Right? Or local angry people who can't get over gay people for some reason. And so that's the thing, is the real problem was over here when they were paying attention to the noise online over here.
Does it matter that they're a Minnesota-based company, that those were, us local folks saw those were their local values, where they
I
came
think
from?
so.
The Dayton family founded, U.S. Senator Governor Mark Dayton. That was his family that founded
It's
that.
not,
Those
but
were
it's not owned.
Minnesota
It's a corporate. It's a bigger corporation now. Sure. If they want to be headquartered there, they have to think about the community. Honestly, I think every company. If not, go plop yourself down in Texas if that's what you want, and they'll let you do anything, right? Kind of stuff. And so, I think it's important. I think it's a bad look. This new CEO, I was shocked by this. We'll talk about it tomorrow and Sunday. Because I was like, I'm going to just do a dramatic reading of his ridiculous interview. Like he's worked there for 20 years. He's got to know what Target stands for. And it's not left or right either. Yeah. It's just decency. Why do you care if someone has a rainbow flag? What do you care? Don't you know what I mean? But stopping people, that's not the American way. And that's a lot of what Minnesota's been talking about with these protests. I think it's all about, let us live the lives we want to live. That's the most Republican thing you could say, actually. That was the old brand of the Republican Party.
Right. There was a kind of a touching, like this catchphrase didn't catch on quite as widely, but a lot of people were using the phrase like, leave Minnesota alone, which is kind of,
leave us alone.
Yeah.
Go do what you want in your state. Go, there's so much, what's interesting, I always say every accusation is a confession with these people.
Absolutely.
Because they talk about like, we want companies to do what they want, but you better not do what we say. Like if AOC did it, they'd lose their brains, but I've never seen a group of people do more things that they decry. We're for free speech. You shut up, or else we'll sue you. You do this. And so to me, to point out leave Minnesota alone. I absolutely let Minnesota do what it wants. And by the way, the voters will decide. They'll vote in whoever they want. If you happen to have, vote in Republicans, you'll do it. But it'll be because of what you all want to do as voters. And it's nobody's business in the federal government. Definitely no one's business from Texas. Wasn't he going on about Minnesota?
Absolutely.
Sorry, Greg.
Yeah, everybody's obsessed with Minnesota. A couple weeks ago, I asked Governor Walz, why, Governor? Why do you think the president is so obsessed with Minnesota? Is it you? Is it the presidential ticket? Is it our values? What do you think, Carol? Why do you think
I think Walz had some good hits on him. I think Walz had some good hits on him throughout that campaign.
During the campaign.
You think this is the weird, that phrase that the governor coined
I think
when he
that
said they're just weird,
They're just
that got
weird.
under his
Oh, yeah.
skin?
I think it got they are very sensitive people and they're overly sensitive. It's the same thing with tech moguls. Like, I have some of them, they're like, "You're mean to me." I'm like, "Oh, grow up." Like, grow up. Like, are you kidding? Like, mean? What are you? Like, I'm not your mama. Like, and I'm sorry your mama wasn't good enough, I guess, or your daddy wasn't. I don't know what to tell you, but it's not my problem. You can't take criticism.
But they still talk to you, even though they
A
say
lot
you're
of them
mean?
do. Not
Yeah.
all. Elon does not talk to me anymore, so I respect that because I really am mean to him. But I'm not that mean. He can take it. One of the things, he has a lot more tools than I have, so he can take it. He owns a Twitter, so
Yeah.
go knock yourself out, Elon. But one of the things I think with Walls is the criticism was really quite pointed and quite on target, I would say. And so to me, I think he hit, sometimes when someone tells you something that's really true about yourself, you kind of get madder at them. They're like, you're like, oh, they're right. I hate them. Like, you know what I mean? And normally, and I think Trump, he really did get under his skin. Klobuchar is a little more diplomatic, but she's been pretty tough. And I think Tina Smith doesn't care anymore. She's like,
No,
I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Time to tell you. Like Tom Tillis is the same way. He's like, enough of this. Now I'm going to tell you what I really think. And
Yeah, Senator Smith, there's a lot of F-bombs.
there
lately.
is. She really, I was sort of like,
which is
this
really
petite
interesting.
little lady. I was like, whoa, okay, I'm down for that. You have
Can
great-
I ask
you
you
have
a
great
question
Congress
about
people.
when I was in journalism school in the mid to late 1990s, there were about 12 companies that really kind of owned everything you watched,
Yeah.
you listened to,
Media companies.
Yeah, media.
12.
And
Yeah, there were.
obviously the consolidation
Now
is
it's like
just-
4. It's
now
going to be
it's- I
five,
think
5 or 6.
yeah, about like the
Disney,
last was about 7.
Comcast, Amazon, Apple. Yeah.
Yeah, I just kind of want your just kind of your take on this. I mean, I'm very frustrated that I think that there should be antitrust laws that should
Yes.
not allow this consolidation anymore. But I'm also really worried about how the federal government, specifically the Trump administration, is kind of picking winners and losers in a lot of these things.
Or they're trying
just
to. They're trying to.
Absolutely.
They're trying to. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what they did, as they did with law firms or everybody else, is they put everyone in a state of fear by those settlements that they did. In some cases, that ABC settlement, that wouldn't have been good in court for ABC. It just wouldn't. There were probably texts and my guess, something like that. But the others were ridiculous. The 60 Minutes one, but she wanted to sell that company and that was the price of doing business, right?
Yep.
She had already, presided over a decline in its value from a lot to very little. So she wanted to get out while the getting's good. And she got a pretty not so smart billionaire on the hook for it. So that's great. But one of the problems there's 2 problems with consolidation is, it does put it in the hand. Now, tech is doing the consolidating now because they have the money. The problem is it puts it in the hands of fewer people. At the same time, the economics of media are so bad for the bigger players, not the smaller ones.
Sure.
So there is no choice, right? They're just going to go out of business, right? It's like kind of, there's a lot of businesses in this country that just went out of business. Like there were a lot of carriage companies, horse and buggy carriage companies. Then there weren't. There were a lot of telcos, and then there weren't. There were a lot of actual physical phone makers, and then there weren't. This is typical of in America and across the globe. And the consolidation, oddly enough, is necessary for them to survive. And at the same time, it's disturbing when it's in the hands of fewer people. The interesting part is that, guess what? Their audiences are shrinking. So maybe they don't have the impact that you think they do. And one of the examples I gave on the tour was, everyone's all up in arms about CBS, and now they will be about CNN when it gets
60 Minutes is why I wanted to go to to journalism school.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when I said, show of hands of people who watched CBS recently at every stop, like 2 people. I was like, yes, because you're under 75. Yes, that is correct. So I said, so what are you concerned with exactly? Because they're not exactly setting the tone, the media tone. It's too dispersed. And by the way, you have to include YouTube in what my kids, my older kids, watch YouTube. That's TV for them. You've got to put in Netflix. You've got to put in and then there's all these little ones like me and Scott and Pivot. Our demo in 25 to 34 is bigger than all the primetime cable shows. So who's powerful and who's not?
Sure.
kind of us, right? But and we're we have like 3 employees, like kind of thing. And so where is and also on the right, Megyn Kelly is more impactful with screaming away at whatever she's mad at, whatever lady she's mad at that day. She's got more impact than others. Some of these right-wing podcasters do, some of these bros. And so everything's dispersing. And a lot of that stuff is economically very strong. Pivot certainly is. And the corporate ones where they have all these costs, like cameras, these ridiculous anchor salaries, everything else, is not sustainable. So I'm not so sure it's going to collapse. I mean, the Ellisons have $100 billion in debt on this company now, or it's $70 to $100 billion in debt. They're rich, but they're not that rich.
Sure.
I'm sorry, they don't. That's a lot of debt, and they're on the hook for 50 to 60 billion of it. I mean, there's only so many Saudi princes you can go to get some money, and so there has to be consolidation of those things. But I think there's a very exciting ecosystem happening.
Yeah.
Look at NPR. NPR could give a fuck. Do you see that recent rebranding? Why? WTF? They got their money pulled. Do you know what they did? They got more donations than ever. They invigorated themselves. Same thing with Planned Parenthood. They're doing Botox. Great. Take money from the Botox people.
Are they really?
They're doing Botox. You know what? They're like,
that.
Okay, they're taking our money. We're going to be innovative. Like,
as a public broadcasting employee, I think, they killed Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
All right.
They were killing NPR and PBS. We're not dead.
No, Catherine, I know Catherine very well, and I did a great interview with her. She's running NPR. She's like, okay, fuck it. We'll do something else. And that's actually a good thing. Like, it really does. I find NPR more invigorated than ever because they're not worried.
Our ratings... We're not probably supposed to talk about it.
Ratings are higher. I've watched them.
Our ratings are through the roof on
because
local
you're now thinking
here in the Twin Cities.
You
January,
aren't worried.
February, through the roof.
Right. You're not worried about the government. Your government doesn't want to give us money. Fine. Now we don't have to listen to those noisy fucks. Right. That's what I say.
And
why I left corporate. That's why I left.
Care. And they really wanted to know what was going on in their community the last 2 months.
And if you provide a product that people want at a price, at a cost structure, you can do great. I mean, I left corporate media I'm at CNN, but I'm just because I want to learn how to do video. And they're actually great. The people of CNN are great. But I was like, I literally looked at someone when I was leaving. I always leave corporate. I go in there sometimes, I come out. And the last time I was leaving corporate media, they were like, why are you leaving? I go, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Like, I don't know what to say, but it's worth it for me not. And I can make more money on the outside.
How many different places do you currently technically work for right now?
Kara Swisher, Inc. It's called Podium Media. I work for Kara Swisher. She's an amazing CEO. She's fantastic. She's a little cheap.
You are fearless. You are adventurous. You are entrepreneurial. You are everywhere.
Well, it's because I had to look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, I'm a bad employee. I'm just so mean. I was getting mad at the employers and I thought, I'm not going to get mad at them anymore. I'll just I want to make the house I want to live in. And I'm a contributor to CNN. And by the way, I'll be quitting with the Ellisons. I don't want to work for them. Sure. And I'll wander over to MS. I don't really care. I'll wander over to NPR. I'll wander over to the Atlantic. I don't know if I feel like doing that. And if they don't want me, they don't want me. If they do, they do. They probably do, actually. So, or MS Now. I'll call Rachel Maddow. Say, I'll come on your show, Rachel, or whatever. So I have a contributor with CNN. I am affiliated with Vox Media. I own all my shows, and Scott and I own Pivot together. We're in a marriage of economics right now, which is really fun. And we actually have a thing in the contract where whoever dies gets it. So if something happens to him.
That's sweet.
You guys are friends.
I know, we really are. We're like, we don't want the families involved. Whoever dies gets it. And that's that. And that seemed fair to us. So we have that together. We own Pivot together, but we own the IP and we get 70. We have Vox. We contract with Vox essentially to sell the advertising and organize things for us. I own 100% of, and I have a contract with Vox to do the advertising and other things. And they employ the producers, which is great. I don't want to employ anybody. I write books, and that's just a contract that I have with Simon & Schuster. But again, I don't work for Simon & Schuster. And then I am doing this original series on CNN. But again,
I'm excited for that.
I think I'm
it's
at
really
6.
good.
If we were counting,
there's 6 of them.
There's jobs.
6 jobs. Yes.
Okay.
But they're all interrelated. I mean, they're in some way. Like this morning, I did Pivot. I have the studio in the house, which we built. I built with Vox. We paid for it equally. And it's great. There's lights and there's a teleprompter. So I did Pivot this morning, and then I did a 2-hour interview with Epstein survivors, which was so good. It's such a good. They were hysterically fun. It was like not funny. They were like, you're dead serious. I think we talked about all these issues, but you will be like, these women are strong and not just resilient. They're like, not a minute more, you people. They're like on a mission, and they should be. I did that for 2.
Sarah, is that going to be for On?
That's on. That's going to be for On.
Okay.
Yeah. And then like next week, I'm hoping to interview Tom Tillis. I'm going to interview John Warner. that's on. On are long, substantive interviews.
Yeah,
about
the
an
Gavin
hour.
Newsom one was really was
I
great.
flew to San Francisco, and I make those decisions with my staff. Like, who are we going to do? Like, I wanted to do the Heated Robbery creators. They were fans of Pivot, and they wrote us on social media. And I was like, will you come on? But in my case, I wanted to talk about the business, not about the guys. I talked to the creators and the business people. I did the K-pop Demon Hunters creators. My kids like it. I listen to it all the time. I can't listen to Golden one more time, but I love it. So we talked to them about the making of it, and so
my youngest loves it.
Yeah. So I do what pleases me.
Well, I know we are coming short on time for you, Kara.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about Sunday. I know Pantages Theater, 7:00. I know for those of us with VIP tickets that we paid for.
Yes, you're going to have a little time with Scott and Kara.
Yes.
So we're going to tape a real show. We're going to get there. We're going to do. I can't tell you. We have special guests. We have other little surprises. We always do. I don't think one of Scott's ex-girlfriends who turned into a lesbian is going to show up, but they might. Who knows? We had that happen. I had all these Easter eggs on tour, little pranks on Scott the entire time, and it was very funny.
Awesome.
But I will have some of that. Scott has a presentation he's going to show you. Scott, if you've never seen Scott present, that's how I met him. That's why I ended up in business with him. I saw him do a presentation, and he's hysterically funny and also incredibly. He's a professor, so he's going to do a lesson for you about boycotts and what he's doing. And I think you'll really enjoy it because he's really funny. And we'll have a pivot show. We'll talk about Kristi Noem. We'll be talking about your Target CEO. We'll talk about your elected representatives, where they are. We might, whatever the news happens to be, we will bring it up, but we will focus on issues around Minnesota. And obviously Kristi Noem will be top of the list because I suppose she's persona non grata in Minneapolis, along with that tiny elf, Greg Bavino, that evil elf. Where did he go? He's not the special guest.
He's
not.
And it is sold out, but we'll share. There is going to be a way to live stream it.
We are live streaming. Scott is doing
Scott's Substack, and it'll also be released as a Pivot episode.
Video and audio. Yes, we'll be doing both.
So both on YouTube and then
everywhere. We'll put it up on all the podcast services. We'll put it up on YouTube. We've been doing a lot of YouTube lately, which is great. We've really liked that. We have no idea why people watch it, but they do, like you guys. It's fine by us. We don't care. If you want to eat Pivot on a piece of salami, I'm good with it. I don't really care. And then we'll do a lot of social media around it. And we're going to try as hard as we can to raise as much money as we can. And if it works, maybe we'll take it on the road a little bit, like go to another city, San Francisco. We're hugely popular in San Francisco, but so we live Pivot. Then the week later we go to South by Southwest, which we'll be doing. We do a huge live Pivot there, which is really fun. And I'll be doing an on interview. Prof G will be doing stuff. So yeah, we're always up to tricks. Scott and I.
Something.
And I'm staying at Scott's house after we get back from the thing, as always. So people are like, do you really stay at his house? I'm like, have you seen his house? Yes, I do. So we're going to go back to New York together, and I'll be hanging with the Scott, and we'll cuddle and see how the night went together.
Wow. Well,
it went in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Kara, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
And
Kara.
again, we also are going to let people ask questions, questions of us. We love questions from the audience. We really want to have a dialogue with our listeners, and we love our listeners. We love them, love them, love them. In the past day, when I was interviewing these survivors today, which was it was a really wonderful and moving thing. At the end, one of the survivors said, I just want to tell you, I love Pivot. I was like, oh, it was so weird. And the day before, I had a very conservative Republican senator say to me, when I walked into the press event that he was doing, it was an off-the-record press event, so I can't tell you who it is, very conservative, look up, because I was late, as always. He looked up and he goes, Scott is such an asshole. And I was like, what? And it was, so we had this one survivor. We love the diversity of our listeners, and we love the diversity of Minnesota, and people should leave you alone and let you do what you want. That's my feeling.
I
Well, thank you
agree.
so much for your
Thank you so
time.
All
much.
right.
and
Thank you,
brilliant.
ladies.
See you
And
Sunday.
Really
Tane
fabulous.
Danger. Tane Danger.
Tane Danger.
We're going to try to come up with ways to say it. Tane Danger.
That's great. Well,
Yeah.
I'll be there Sunday, and so it's going to be great. And I know Mary and Tara, you're both going to be there too. So we're super excited, Kara. Thank you for.
We may
making
do
time.
a prank on Tane. We don't know. We don't know what we're
wow.
going to do.
Okay.
I'm going to get a
Okay.
really famous person to say Tane Danger.
Wow.
That's what I'm going to do.
Okay. I'm now.
All right. Okay.
Thank you so
Maybe
much.
I'll get
Kara.
Rosenoff to say it. Maybe I'll get Rosenoff to go Tane Danger. That kind of thing.
Worth it.
All right.
All
All
right.
right.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank
guys.
you.
All right.
Yes.
Bye.
We'll keep
Thanks.
Tane around and keep chatting a little
Tane
more.
is the best. Tane is the best. We
Okay.
love that
We
Tane.
got that on recording, right?
All right, yes,
Okay.
you are.
Yeah.
Every time I've gone to Minnesota, Tane Danger's been involved, and I have to say, flawless. Flawless. All right. Okay.
He's pretty special.
Okay.
He is. All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you,
all.
everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Okay.
Okay. Tane Danger, amazing.
Fun. She's pretty
So
great,
fun.
right?
She's so great.
You know, I mean, honestly, just to think about, she was pretty young, right? When she really started covering, tech over
Well,
30 years ago.
If you
So,
her book, Burn Book, as you said, kind of opens a little bit with this story where she tells how like she wrote a story where she's like, so I've heard about this thing called email and I'm gonna like try it out, right? Like that's how far back she goes
yes.
with some of this. And she's been like in this world ever since then. And so when she says she knows these people, I mean, she's like almost grown up with them in a
Right,
lot of
right.
ways.
Absolutely.
The other thing
Absolutely.
I learned, Tane, in watching your interview with her and her book when you were at Westminster was that she was offered a political reporter job too, because you could tell during our whole conversation, she absolutely could have been a star political reporter as well as a tech journalist.
Yeah.
She gets politics.
Yeah, I say like I've interviewed a lot of people, not as many as people as Mary has interviewed, but I've interviewed my fair share. And I really believe Kara Swisher is, if not the like quickest, sharpest, smartest person I've interviewed, like definitely top 5. And her brain works very, very fast. She's incredibly insightful and thoughtful, but she's also like moving really fast and connecting dots very quickly, which again, Mary, I'm like looking at you because you are a wonderful reporter and interviewer, and like people like that, you have to be like keeping up with them, right? Like as they're
You
going.
just ping,
Yeah.
ping, ping. When we were talking about that, I'm like trying to
I'm
think of an
thinking,
analogy.
did she not go through menopause when your brain like shuts down and short?
I
Why-
didn't ask that. That did not feel an appropriate question for me to ask.
Maybe not. Yes. I said I felt like the only prep I had was when I co-hosted a show with the all-time Jeopardy champion, Ken Jennings. Like that's the only human I've met whose brain fires as fast and you have to be as prepared and on your toes is Ken Jennings and Kara Swisher. Like
when did you do that? I don't remember that.
at Twin Cities Public Television, we did a quiz show and I co-hosted a quiz show with Ken Jennings.
Which I cannot tell you how jealous I am.
It was amazing.
Mary,
He
I
was
demand that you write into your
amazing.
contract that if Ken Jennings is coming back to do a quiz show of all things, like my favorite thing in the world.
He's so nice too. Like he's so nice and just charming and brilliant. I honestly can't say enough about him.
It's great.
It was really fun.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Oh, fun.
And I was young.
I'm so
My brain
thankful.
was still working, fully functional.
Yeah, no, thank you both for the invitation to be on. And I'm so glad it worked out to have Kara here as part of this. She's great. I think you all know, like you've been doing a lot of really great interviews and reporting in the time that the podcast has been up. But like Minnesota is in a very special place right now.
Absolutely.
And I think that there's a lot of ways that's heavy and hard, but also there's like a great opportunity here to use that as a chance to talk about like what's important and why people here kind of care about the stuff that they care about and why people participate, why we have highest voting numbers and highest volunteer numbers and some of the highest nonprofit support and things like
philanthropic
that.
donations, all of it.
That this is
Literally.
a special
That's
place.
what we talked about in our launch episode, didn't we, Tara? It was like,
We
why
did.
do we want to do this? Why are Minnesota special? Why do we care? Why do we want to talk to smart, important people? That's like the whole reason we launched this thing.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So I am grateful, and I'm really hoping that, this momentum of people kind of noticing there is something pretty special here continues. And then that part of that is for those of us here on the ground to keep figuring out ways to tell that story and use the platforms that we have to lift up those meaningful and important conversations, which again, I think you all are doing a great job with. And I was very grateful to get to be a little part of it today. So thank you.
Well, you
Thank
do
you.
amazing work. I want to give you a couple plugs because
Oh,
I think you spent the week down at Mayo Clinic, the world famous Mayo Clinic, also something in Minnesota. What do you do down there,
Also
Tane?
something, yes.
Tell us.
Yeah. So I'll say quickly, my background's actually in improvisational theater, right? Like that's how I got started. The theater of public policy that you mentioned at the beginning is this improv show. That one is kind of political and policy focused, but I for years taught people improv, not necessarily for them to get up on stage and do a comedy show, but because improv teaches you how to listen really well, how to empathize with somebody else, how to think on your feet when something goes differently than you thought it was going to go. And all of those skills are really valuable off stage. And particularly, I argue, in a medical space. And so I've got a role where I serve as artist in residence at the Mayo Clinic Lavin Center for Humanities and Medicine. And basically, my work there is using improv as a toolkit to train people, healthcare staff, doctors, nurses, med students, people all over the institution. I use improv as a way to teach them, how do we communicate better? How do we listen better? How do we work as a team better? And actually kind of designed a whole curriculum for being able to do that. So it's very cool work that I'm very privileged
That
to
is
get to
so
do.
cool. Like, would they send somebody? I'm just trying to think of course, like maybe if a new department chief or something comes in and they want to try and bring the team together. But like, are you maybe trying to help folks who might not have always the best bedside manner?
I don't know if anybody's ever said, here's somebody who has bad bedside. Yeah, fix them. But I teach a class. I'm teaching it right now in the med school. It's a selective in
Okay.
the med school. And so it is something for med students who are, this is new in a lot of ways. And you can read in a book or get a presentation about how important bedside manner is or how important listening is. But it's really something you have to practice and something that you have to develop as a muscle. And so we have exercises that we do that help you do that and help you practice some of those kinds of things. And both listening to patients, but also listening to the other members of your medical team. Because again, that can sometimes be challenging. There's a lot of egos sometimes involved. And so like, how do you navigate that in a really healthy way that we're
So
working as a
interesting.
team?
Yeah.
Yes,
And
I love that.
it's so cool. Does your background going through the Humphrey Institute kind of inform this too?
Yes. So I went to the Humphrey School of Public Affairs, and I really focused on what is it that public policy people learn about how they kind of connect with communities, how they talk about what they do, how they listen and whatnot, and where are the gaps in that, right? Like, and so I actually did my capstone work there on, again, like, is improv and theater sort of a way to get a different kind of engagement between public policy experts, which I'm doing in quotation marks for people listening, like people who are really deep in policy.
Sure.
Is there a different way for them to engage with each other and with communities? And can improv, something that is about possibility, about saying yes and, about really listening and collaborating, can that be a different framework for like how you go into policy conversations and policy work? I still do a lot of work with the Humphrey School. We have an entire curriculum that we do with them on how to use some of these skills to have better conversations with people who disagree with you. And so we do a half-day training as part of orientation at the Humphrey School every year, where again, we're using some things out of improv, some things out of communication theory, some things out of just almost like relationship dynamic things. But all of these are built into a half-day training that will hopefully by the end give those students tools to sit at a table with somebody who is on a totally different side of an issue than them and still have a good, productive conversation, which is really important.
I told you he's
Absolutely.
amazing. Don't you see why I totally love Tane?
Ab-
Very, very.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that part right now for folks in, probably at the Capitol is really important. I was really good for many, many, many years having very difficult conversations, and it just became, so toxic that I just, I left, gave up
Right.
my gave up my career. I just ran away. I did not want to take a class and try and figure out how to redo this.
But your story is actually like a illustration of why we were invited to start doing this work with the Humphrey School.
Sure.
Because you name that it's toxic, and there is absolutely like toxic, heated parts of the way the rhetoric operates. But frankly, what
Yeah.
the bigger problem I will say that we've seen is that so many people see how the toxic parts and the nasty parts, and then they're just like, I'm out. I don't want to have anything to do with this.
Yeah.
And they just shut
Yep.
down, either like I'm not going to be part of this world at all, or if they're in a space where one of these is happening, they like just look at their shoes and don't want to
Yep.
participate. And so we really try and emphasize like listening to people and showing that you are listening to them is so important, because you want other people to feel like they can share their story and their point of
Absolutely.
view. Like
But
we need
also,
that.
Tane, you make not only people feel heard, but you give them space to laugh
Yeah.
and have
Hopefully.
fun around policy and politics. And that, to me, is the most powerful tool you have.
Oh, that's very sweet. I really believe that. Like, again, so we're talking about kind of like things in the world that I've seen and tried to like do something better about. Again, you both know very well, like there is a capacity in policy world for us to take something and make it almost so purposefully dry and dull that nobody kind of wants to engage with it, right? Like,
yeah.
yeah. And I
We've
feel
been
like,
in
I
those rooms.
could talk about dish payments and everybody went dish payments for hospitals, and you
Yeah.
guys would all be like, what?
yeah. And again, like I just fundamentally believe like democracy works better if more people are involved, and more people are going to be involved if there's a way for it to be something enjoyable and fun for them to participate. And that does not mean that it then has to lose a sense of importance or gravity of what we're talking about. Like you can have a fun, even entertaining, like a way of thinking about and engaging with material that is still very substantive. I mean, Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway are a very good example of, they do a very great conversation twice a week that is fun to listen to, but is talking about very like heavy, sometimes
Complex and
challenging,
heavy stuff.
complex things.
Yes.
So again, like a lot of my work has been like, okay, how do you use some of the tools of theater and comedy to make it so that people actually see themselves in the conversations about what's going on at the Minnesota Capitol or what's going on in their communities or whatnot? Because again, I'm hoping that people, if they can laugh a little bit about some of these things, and they can do that laughter kind of with other people, then they're a little less afraid of like participating and getting involved and being part of doing something about it with members of their community, which again could take all different kinds of shapes. It could come from all different political points of view or whatnot. But at the end of the day, I want people to feel like participating and being part of politics, policy is actually something fun and fulfilling, not awful and terrible.
Let you go.
Mary, you don't know me well. In
In
my head, I'm like, oh, everything I've done is like not that great.
Well, you've had a couple of things that have gone viral, and been really amazing hits back in the theater public policy, some bipartisan pairings. Why don't you just tell us about
Well,
that?
like the one that, I think Mary's teeing me up the most to talk about there is like, so we took the Theater of Public Policy to Washington, D.C. back in 2016. So now 10 years ago. But it was when
Wow.
both Tim Walz and Tom Emmer were congressmen. And at that time, they were like, I asked, would you guys come on the show together while we're there? And they did it. And they came on the show together. And so I interviewed both of them. There's a fun fact, which not everybody knows about, is this was literally, it was either like I think it was maybe while the government was shut down. And so it was right before like John Boehner eventually like struck a deal to reopen the government. Then it had to kind of like give up the speakership because of that. But anyway, so it was a tense time. There was like real stuff going on. But these two guys at that time like were having a really good time being on stage together and talking those issues out. And I was facilitating a conversation. They did not agree, but they were like, well, of course Tim thinks that. And then kind of would like josh each other and make jokes about it. I will tell you, totally true story. Like Tom Emmer, like totally like was the funniest person on stage
Yeah.
that night.
I
True
used to
story.
know
Like,
that person.
True story. Yep. Yep.
Absolutely.
We
Yeah.
knew that person in the state legislature.
We knew
Very
that
different than the
person.
person in DC today. Yep.
Yeah,
yeah.
very
I mean,
different.
he literally told a story where at the time, Tim Walz, like I have this distinct image of like Tim Walz like laughing so hard and then just being like, wait, you all have to hear the end of this story, like, and kind of like throwing it over. And that I think that went very viral. I mean, and it went viral again when Walz was selected as the VP nominee, because then Congressman Emmer was saying all kinds of nasty, terrible things about Tim Walz.
Sure.
And, there were people who found these clips and like said, well, what happened? Right? Like, you didn't always feel this way. Like, you were saying that this is like, we're lucky to have a congressman like Tim Walz in Minnesota. I don't know if he said exactly that, but they were like, they were chummy
They were
together
having a
there.
blast and
Yeah.
loving on each other. And
And I just said, like I said, from a very, again, nonpartisan lens, like I want a government where you can have a Democrat and a Republican sit on stage together and they can say, we really disagree with each other, but we do not hate each other as people. And we actually can laugh about some of the same things together because there are things that we both find funny. And I think that I wrote a piece for the Star Tribune during the campaign in 24 where I talked about this experience, and I just said, I realized like politics is in a different place than it was at that time, 8 years ago. But I really hope that we can get back to a place, or maybe get to a new place, where something like that is possible. Because I don't think that it is healthy or good for anyone in the long run for us to be in a place where the default is that person sits on that side of the aisle and therefore they are bad.
Yep. I actually believe, you guys, that they're going to study this time period. And they're going to see huge increases, skyrocketing healthcare issues from chronic disease and cancers and everything, because I just think people are on such high alert, and you're either on our team or you're not. And I just think cortisol is kind of constantly running through everybody's bodies.
But
And
hopefully it's hope. Hopefully
not
we're
good.
giving people hope and ideas. As Tara and I always say, we want solutions, right? And we're doing this to try and give hope and solutions.
Well, here's what so a really big kick that I'm on right now, and it goes to this constructive dialogue work, is what we call it, this work that I do at the Humphrey School of Public Affairs, is I really am trying to encourage people to go and talk to other people in your life about things that you care about, and listen to the things that they care about. Right. Like, and again, that can be really scary or intimidating sometimes because we're so worried about how it's going to go badly or it's going to, blow up in one way or another. But I will say, first of all, my experience is that if you go to somebody else and you honestly demonstrate that you are interested in hearing their story, and you're like, I actually am curious about what you believe and why, most people appreciate that and will share that in a relatively respectful way. And so I generally find that if you are willing to do that, you get to hear something from somebody else, and they are much more likely then to also reciprocate and want to hear your thing. And if it's still like very scary, you can set time limits on it. You can be like, okay, I'm going to try this for, this one phone call today or whatnot. But in addition to the Humphrey School work, I've been doing some just workshops and offering for people of like how you can just do this more in your own life, right? Like, what are some of the tools for just like, calling up a family member or an old friend who you haven't talked to in a while because you're worried, like you don't see things eye to eye, and just being able to say like, talk to me. Like, I want to hear more about how you're seeing this. And then after you hear that, say like, okay, I hear that. And let me share a little bit about how I am seeing this. Because at the end of the day, like, I don't think that it is going to be something where we're all of a sudden going to get the perfect politicians who like change the entire dynamic and make everything work better and differently. They respond to us. right? Like it goes upwards. And so
Absolutely.
if it has to kind of start like on a ground level with people just showing one another in a very everyday regular citizen kind of space. I actually care about you. You are my neighbor, you are my friend, you are somebody who lives in my community. We may not agree, but I care about you and I want to hear what you think. And if we can practice that even just a little bit more, like once in a while, I think that that starts to be some of the building blocks that gets us to a better place in our politics and in our society.
That's really
Well
lovely.
said,
I
Tane.
think we end right there, my dear.
I do too.
We
Thank
love
you
you and we
for
care about
doing
you,
this.
Tane. Yes.
Nice. Thank
And
you.
thank you for producing and helping with the pivot. I emailed them a month ago after
That's
Alex
great.
Preddy passed away, and I was like, "Please come to Minnesota. You would sell it out, a
They
couple
did.
thousand seats, no problem. We need people like you who are really paying attention to come and support Minnesotans." Like I thought of it more as like um, just lift people's spirits for some folks. So I'm so excited that they did it. And I'm so excited
You
when they
got it
said
done,
Plain
Tane.
Danger.
You're a
Well,
superstar. We love
it's
you.
not done. It's not
It's happening.
Sunday.
It's
It's happening.
happening.
It's
Sunday.
great. It's very exciting. Yeah. I mean, Mary and I have been part of a lot of this is one of the hardest production things I've ever been a part of. I mean, in part because it's like a huge thing, but also because like the timeline was
The
like,
time frame.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've done some crazy projects together. This
Yeah.
might be craziest.
this was big, but I'm very excited, and I'm so excited that you all did this today, and that you're going to be there on Sunday. It's going to be it's going to be very cool. So I am
Yep.
probably
I'm
going to be
looking
running
forward
around
to
like
it.
a chicken with my head cut off on Sunday, but I will try and stop and give you all a hug.
If you need anything,
If my lips are like dry, just hand me a bottle of water because I'm probably like dehydrated.
okay. Thanks,
Awesome.
you guys.
All right,
Have a
thank
good
y'all. You have a
night.
good afternoon. Bye.
All right.
Thanks. You too.
Bye, dear.
Bye.
Bye.